Janavalabha Girivanadhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivanadhari Yashodanandana Brajajananandana Yashodanandana Brajajananandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Varachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vishnupad, Paramahamsa, Parvikarajacharya, Shruta Shruta Shishimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Alrighty, so we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 7, and let's see here, I think it's text 6. Yes, okay, text 6. Okay, so word for word. So, Bhagavan Ekaha Eva Eshaha Sarva Kshetreshu Avashtitaha Amusya Durbhagavatvam Va Kleshaha Va Karmabihi Kutaha. So Bhagavan Eka Evaisha Sarva Setreshvavastitaha Amusya Durbhagatvam Va Kleshova Karma Bihikuta. Bhagavan Eka Evaisha Sarva Setreshvavastitaha Amusya Durbhagatvam Va Kleshova Karmabihi Kutaha. Bhagavan Eka Evaisha Sarva Setreshvavastitaha Amusya Durbhagatvam Va Kleshova Karmabihi Kutaha. Okay.
सर्वक्षेत्रेषु अवस्थितः
सर्वक्षेत्रे अवस्थितः
अमुष्यधुर्भगत्वं वा
मनुष्यदुर्गभत्वं वा
क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कुतः
क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः भगवान् एक एवैष सर्वक्षेत्रे अवस्थितः मनुष्यदुर्गभत्वं वा क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः भगवान् एक एवैष सर्वक्षेत्रे अवस्थितः क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः
Mataji?
सर्वक्षेत्रे अवस्थितः अमुष्यदुर्गभत्वं वा क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः भगवान् एक एवैष सर्वक्षेत्रे अवस्थितः मनुष्यदुर्गभत्वं वा क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः भगवान् एक एवैष सर्वक्षेत्रेषु अवस्थितः अमुष्यदुर्गभत्वं वा क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः भगवान् एक एवैष सर्वक्षेत्रेषु अवस्थितः क्लेशो वा कर्मभिः कृतः
Okay, so word for word. Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Supreme Personality of God.
Ekaha,
Ekaha,
alone. Eva,
Eva,
Eshaha,
Eshaha,
all these. Sarva,
Sarva,
all.
all.
Kshetreshu,
Kshetreshu,
in the living entities.
the living entities.
Avastitaha,
Avastitaha,
situated.
situated.
Mushya,
Manushya,
the living entities.
the living entities.
Durbhagatvam,
Durbhagatvam,
misfortune.
misfortune.
Va,
Va,
either.
either.
Kleshaha,
Kleshaha,
miseries.
miseries.
Va,
Va,
or.
or.
Karma bihi,
Karma-bihi,
by activities.
by activities.
Kutaha,
Kutaha,
what for? Okay, translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Jai.
The Lord as the Supersoul situated in every living being's heart. Why then do living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? The next question put forward by Vidura to Maitreya is, why are the living entities subjected to so many miseries and misfortunes in spite of the Lord's presence in their hearts as the Supersoul? The body is considered a fruitful tree, and the living entity and the Lord as Supersoul are like two birds seated in that tree. The individual soul is eating the fruit of the tree, but the Supersoul, the Lord, is witnessing the activities of the other bird. A citizen of the state may be in miseries for want of sufficient supervision by the state authority. But how can it be possible that a citizen suffers from other citizens while the chief of the state is personally present? From another point of view, it is understood that the jiva, the living entity, is qualitatively one with the Lord, and thus his knowledge in the pure state of life cannot be covered by nescience, especially in the presence of the Supreme Lord. How then does a living entity become subjected to ignorance and covered by the influence of Maya? The Lord is the Father and Protector of every living entity, and He is known as Bhutabrit, or the maintainer of the living entities. Why then should the living entity be subjected to so many sufferings and misfortunes? It should not be so, but actually we see that it happens everywhere. This question is therefore put forward by Vidura for solution. Om Jnana Timanandasya Gananjanjana Salakaya Chakshurunmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapanantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnamam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganaptam Mitam Tam Shajivam Savaduitam Savadutam Parijana Saritam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakananaditam Shri Vishakam Mitam Cha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vikas Swamini Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Shrimante Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Patranine Nivishesha Sunivani Pasutari Starini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Bhadaya Prasada Sayavirata Sangarat Yat Karavatar Adha Siddhanta Sanmanim Bhagavan Eka Evaisha Sarva Setresha Vastita Amushya Dur Bhagavatvam Va Kleshova Karma Bihi Kuta. So, the Lord, as the Supersoul, is situated in every living being's heart. Why then do the living entities' activities result in misfortune and misery? So, Vidura is putting forward, we'll name the chapters for the inquiries by Vidura, and that's what's going on right now. Vidura is asking questions, trying to understand what's exactly going on in the universe more, and why certain things are happening, or like what, for instance. Just like in the previous verse, he has mentioned the pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dreams, or other causes. How then does he become engaged in essence? So these are relevant questions, and sometimes in life we find that other people ask questions that are extremely relevant to us, but we don't really consider or think to ask them. So some of these questions will pave way into further discussion into the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this particular question here he's asking today is an interesting question, and there's different levels at it. The root of his question that he's asking is the living entities. Why are they, if Bhagavan's expansion as Paramatma is with them in their heart, seated right next to him, then why are they suffering? Because Bhagavan's not suffering, because that was discussed previously, right? Because he doesn't, in the sense, that could be a whole discussion, but as mentioned that but he's self-satisfied and he's detached, that he has there's no desire in him, but that means material desire. That translation is, boys are enthusiastic to play with other boys or with various diversions because they are encouraged by desire. But there is no possibility of such desire for the Lord because he is self-satisfied and attached from everything. So what exactly is going on? So Vidura is asking that, and Prabhupada makes the point in the purport here. Let's see if I can see. He says that the Lord is the father and protector of every living entity. He's known as Bhutabrit, or the maintainer of all living entities, and then continues, and why? So why is the living entity suffering? So God is the father, protector, maintainer, everything. He's doing all these things, he's maintaining, so why isn't he protecting his subjects from misery? Why isn't everything just super blissful in the world and everything like that? Why is there misfortune? Sanatana Goswami also kind of asked a similar question in his initial inquiries to Lord Chaitanya. And this famous verse was, Keami, Kena Amai, Jara Tapatraya, Ihan Nahi Jani, Kemane Hitahaya. So generally we focus on that, Keami, who am I? What further he goes on to say is, why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? So he's asking a similar thing. Why is there, a little bit different, but the essence, why am I suffering? Vidura is asking, why is everybody suffering? What's going on exactly? Like that. And so it's a common question maybe just in the world, but in theology also, and there's different kind of like understandings of that, and the sense of if God created the world, then why is there suffering, or different understandings of that. Why didn't, and then there's different conclusions to that when, when God was creating the world, the universe, or whatever, he made some mistakes, and so that's the deficiency that we're feeling, because he didn't really understand what he was doing. But I guess when he created heaven, then he figured out all the things he messed up with on earth, and then he was able to kind of iron that out when he created heaven and the second go. And then when he created hell, or maybe he didn't create hell. I don't know what the theological understanding is for the creation of hell. I guess that's when Lucifer fell or something, and then he created hell. But anyways, that's kind of the understanding as far as that goes, is that, well, God messed up. He's perfect. He knows everything. Well, now he knows everything. He didn't know everything before. And they may not say explicitly that, but that's kind of the understanding, that he figured it all out, that he was 99% complete, now he's 100, and he figured it out. And so now you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and then you go to the perfect earth, heaven. So that's kind of that line of thought. And then there's different things like that. I looked up a little bit, but then they say also, well, that there's suffering because it's from at least from that particular religion's point of view, is that, well, there's suffering because that suffering brings you closer to God. And that's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, actually, with what is that? When Ramachandra in the 9th canto, and he was looking at the ocean angrily and it was beginning to burn up, Prabhupada makes a point, something along the lines of like, most people are like animals, so unless they're punished by material nature, then they just won't come to God consciousness. So that is there to some degree. But then they try to like juggle around and figure out like that in different conclusions. Vidura is asking a similar question, a little bit more developed though. A little bit more developed, much more developed. Because it's like here, I mean, the basis of this understanding is that it's not just you have one life, which is the basis of most people, that this planet is all in all, this body is all in all, and this opportunity is is all in all. So you only live once, so therefore do it right, or eternal damnation, or I know the opposite of that, eternal salvation, like that. So pick or choose. And then sometimes we see too, when you drive along the highway in different parts of America, they have, there's one sign I used to always see from this stretch when it come from, Gainesville to like, up in this zone and past Atlanta, but there'd be like pretty much like a billboard with like zombies, and that's supposed to be all the sinners that didn't accept Jesus, and then some happy people who are glowing and shining that accepted Jesus, like that. So so people try to juggle around these different ideas and try to figure it out. But Vidura is explaining, and it's understood that it's not you just have one shot and then you blow it and that's it. But the living entity has multiple opportunities to rectify the tendency to enjoy separately from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from Krishna. And so the understanding that we glean from Shastra and our acharyas is, which is different from all people, is that the material world isn't a place to just enjoy, to have a good time, and then have a great time in the material world, enjoy your senses, and then in your next life, enjoy your senses and the associate with God, down the hall, also enjoying his senses, whatever the conception of God is like that. But I don't even think, too, they have a conception that God has senses, or really any conception of God, actually. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains very clearly the nature of the material world. And to go further with, I don't want to go so much into that, but just to touch on that lightly. But one thing that can go further into that is that, which is maybe more relevant to us. So the kind of to go around on this a little bit more, but so Vidura has asked, so Krishna's the super soul's with living entity, so why does living entity suffer? And so we could similarly ask the same thing. We can look at it from the side of conditioned souls or souls that are just outright envious, 100%, don't want anything to do with Krishna. But then also, what about souls and jivas that are want things to do with Krishna? They want to have a relationship, sadhakas or pure devotees. Why do they suffer? What is going on? Because when we're taking to Krishna consciousness, it's mentioned in the the Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu that when one is approaching pure devotional service, I think it's Kleshagni, that all one's miseries disappear. And so, and we've experienced that when taking to Krishna consciousness. We may have been miserable previously, and then coming and taking to Krishna consciousness, experiencing the bliss. And so that previously during Prabhupada's times, the devotees would say, I don't know exactly, I think Prabhupada would say like this, but Krishna consciousness is like an ocean of LSD because one drop of LSD, you'll feel bliss for a long time, depending on, anyways. So it like that. So Prabhupada, so that was like kind of, whatever, some bridge preaching to understand the amount of happiness that you can perceive from Krishna consciousness. And then they would say different things too. I think they would say different things, but like Krishna consciousness, it's like an ocean of LSD and then you don't come down. So like that. So then, anyways, that at least I was also told that when I joined, they would say that Krishna consciousness was like an ocean of LSD still, and there was a lot of when I joined and was allowed to move into the temple. A lot of the senior devotees were had that hippie background. So, anyways. So Prabhupada and the devotees would kind of say like that. And then they would experience that, taking to Krishna consciousness, experiencing that bliss, that happiness, that satisfaction, and then, ditching everything and giving up everything and moving into the temple and then living full-time and going on Sankirtan. And definitely all those activities are blissful and ecstatic, and we've all had experience of that. And if you haven't had experience of that, then go out on Sankirtan and experience that. It's something beyond the three worlds. And that's because that's a happiness on the spiritual platform. So then taking to that, and then what we still experience and see sometimes, that even within Krishna consciousness, may not be so blissful all day, every day. Some days there may be difficulties, there may be struggles. We may get into a situation which is nerve-wracking, which is annoying or whatever, or just really puts us into anxiety. And so, those things can happen. Or maybe, we get sick or something like that, or we get hurt seriously or something along those lines. And we also see in Shastra, and sometimes that's raised too, that in Krishna consciousness, when we suffer or something bad happens to us, like if devotee gets cancer, then is that from previous karma? Is that the material energy acting, or is that Krishna, or what exactly is going on? We see also this in the text in the Brahma Samhita. This is a text that Prabhupada would quote often. So, yes, Twindra Gopam Atavendra Sahosa Karma Bandhara Rupam Palabhajanam Atmanoti Karmani Nindavati Kintu Bhakti Bhajam. So, especially that line, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And this isn't the translation given by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but it's one that Prabhupada gave. And anyways, Prabhupada gives different translations in different places, but I thought this one was a little bit more easier to understand, at least right now. So those who engage in devotional service are unaffected by the results of their material activities. Otherwise, everyone from the smallest microbe up to the king of heaven, Indra, is subject to the laws of karma. A pure devotee, being always engaged in the service of the Lord, is exempt from these laws. So Prabhupada makes the point there that the pure devotees, they're not under the laws of karma, if doing some activity, right? Because we learn in the Bhagavad Gita that there's, karma, it's in that the Ishopanishad also, but that there's karma, vikarma, and akarma. So you do some activity, you get some good result, karma. You do something bad, vikarma, you suffer, and then you then akarma or activities that don't produce any result, any fruit, phalam, like that. Because Prabhupada's making the point in this purport about the super soul, or sorry, not the super soul and the two birds in the tree. And so in other places, Prabhupada mentions that one bird is busy trying to enjoy the fruits of that tree. And so, and that tree, well, anyways, there's so many different descriptions given, but sometimes it's mentioned that like that tree in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what is this? Urdhva Mula Madashrakam. So there's this banyan tree, and then it's described, what is it? Asvatam Paharavayam Chachasmi Yasya Parnani Yastvam Veda Vedavit. Andashrotam Paritashasaka Guna Pravitaya Pashaya Allah. Andashyan Vyutani Satani Dani Manush Banduna I forget the last time. Manusha Loke. So anyways, it's described that all these branches and things like that, the living entity is that there's pious and impious. And there's also a famous picture in the Bhagavad Gita where it shows a picture of that, all these different things. So the living entity is sitting in the heart. And anyways, the point is sometimes he's enjoying, sometimes he's suffering. And the super soul is just sitting there kind of like watching it, waiting for the living entity to turn towards him. So in our position and coming to Krishna consciousness, we're switching from enjoying and suffering in the material world to turning our attention towards Krishna and acting according to Vedic rules and regulations. And of course, according to the directions of devotees and the spiritual master and all those things. So our situation's a little bit different. But we see in this particular verse, so Prabhupada's making the point about a pure devotee who's always engaged. So he's exempt from these laws. And Srila Prabhupada would say in different places like that. Well, before I get there, so just to kind of harp on this more, so the pure devotees are unaffected. And so we see, like, for example, Prabhupada would cite Haridas Thakur. He was, caned in, I forget if it was 22 or 23 marketplaces. 22? 22, okay, 22. And other devotees also that had to suffer in different ways, like Parikshit. We see, anyways, don't name so many, but there's so many examples in the Bhagavatam, Kunti, the Pandavas, etc. Srila Prabhupada also. So we understand from Shastra that it's not due to their karma that they're suffering like that. And then we understand that Krishna's arranging that to teach us, and okay. And we accept that. But then what about our lives? Or we're not like them. We may say like that or think like that. So then what's going on in our situation? If I'm suffering now or have this problem or whatever, what exactly is going on? Living in the material world, there'll be problems. And that's shown with great devotees, that there'll be problems, there'll be setbacks, there'll be pushes from demons, people who are against Krishna consciousness. And so is that karma, or is it just, I'm just suffering? Is this Krishna consciousness? Is this what Krishna wants? Does Krishna want me to suffer? And then like that, and then we come back to the same thing, which is that we could be asking, like how Vidura is asking here. I'm suffering now also. Is it the living? So if Krishna's with me, why am I suffering? Why is there misfortune in my life? Why is there misery? All these different things we may ask. So Prabhupada would give the example often of a fan, that when we take to Krishna consciousness, we unplug the fan, but still the fan spins for some time. It goes on for a little bit. And so there's a semblance of karmic reaction. It's like we may be sick with some disease or something, and then we take up to Krishna consciousness, and it's not that, by taking to Krishna consciousness, if we have, whatever, COVID or something, then we take the Krishna consciousness and immediately COVID goes away. It's not like that exactly. Or if we're blind, then we take the Krishna consciousness, then we can see again. It doesn't really work like that exactly. Can work like that, but generally not. Because there are instances in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Lord Chaitanya curing devotees that had illnesses. So Prabhupada would say like that. Prabhupada would also say too that in Krishna consciousness, This is one of those famous things that I forget the exact context, but I think somebody got their finger cut in the kitchen or something, and then Prabhupada said, and there's something along the lines of like, you should have lost your whole hand or whole arm or something. Is that the story? It was in the kitchen or something like that? Or was exactly what's the context of that? Mr. Milan? Heard it in classes. I've also heard it, but I don't know where that's from. Anyways, like that we hear. You know, Jida? Token karma. Like that. So that's there, and that's been said. That we should, anyways, the idea is that Krishna is just, like you're saying, giving a token, just a little bit of the karma. That we should have suffered a lot more, but then we're suffering less. And Prabhupada makes the point in the Bhagavad Gita also, I think it's in the 2nd chapter, but somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, he makes the point that when a devotee is enjoying, or something good comes to a devotee, he thinks that actually I don't deserve that. And then when something bad happens, he thinks, well, actually I deserve worse, but Krishna is giving me a little bit. So he shows the mentality of how to think. And so the Bhagavatam gives examples of that, of devotees suffering. And like I was saying, we could say, well, I'm not like them, this and that. But those things are there to kind of learn us and to show us the proper mentality to have. Because the point is that, especially in practicing Krishna consciousness and inspiring for the topmost, there's different obstacles that can set us back. And there's many obstacles, actually. And they may come in different ways, different designs, and things like that. But one essential point to all obstacles in Krishna consciousness is that if we don't have the proper attitude, then we're going to have serious problems. Because if we're approaching Krishna consciousness in the mood of, I'll enjoy Krishna consciousness, or, Krishna consciousness is nice, pure devotional service is nice, but I don't really want to be a pure devotee, or, what else? Or maybe it may not be so upfront, but just kind of this subtle tendency to kind of maybe lose track of the goal or lose track of the reference point, then a lot of problems can ensue. And we can go off track. And going off track can happen in different ways. For instance, if there's a problem in our lives or whatever, and problems arise, but we don't have the vision of doing everything for Krishna, or we may be in the temple serving and different things come up, or maybe something happens and we're misunderstood or whatever it is. But if we don't keep the proper attitude, then when those problems arise, then we'll think, well, there's something the matter with Krishna, or there's something the matter with this process, or how could Krishna do this to me? I've been doing so much, I deserve more, this or that, and then we can lose track. So we see the different pure devotees, that they have that fixity of consciousness. And there's a couple of examples there, but I was thinking here, let me read that, but one instance that comes to mind is the pastime with Bharat Maharaj. Because Bharat Maharaj, before he achieved perfection, he had some different difficulties. And they tried to get different insight into why that happened and how that happened, with him becoming attached to a deer. So read a little bit about that. But one interesting thing we can note from Bharat Maharaj is that we can learn from his life that he was really close to perfecting his life, and then he got a little sidetracked, and then he became a deer. So Prabhupada would cite that sometimes, that if we're not sufficiently serious in Krishna consciousness, or sometimes also if we have some little bit of desire, then we'll have to take another birth. Of course, Bharat Maharaj perfected his life later, and there's invaluable instructions given in the 5th canto in relation to him, because he spoke this story to Rahugana of the forest of material enjoyment, which is a very amazing part of the Bhagavatam. And then so many other instructions that he gave also. So it's not that Bharat Maharaj is, looked down upon that, because in the bigger scheme of things, he achieved perfection. There was just some minor things, so that was overlooked. So Prabhupada says in the purport here So as will be seen in later verses, Bharat Maharaj at the time of death would be forced to accept the body of a deer due to his attraction for the deer. In this regard, a question may be raised. How can a devotee be affected by his past misconducts and vicious activities? In Brahma Samhita it is stated, Karmani nirdohati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. For those engaged in devotional service, bhakti bhajan, the results of past deeds are indemnified. According to this, Bharat Maharaj could not be punished for his past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Maharaj Bharat purposely became over-addicted to the deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. To immediately rectify his mistake for a short time, he was awarded the body of a deer. This was just to increase his desire for mature devotional service. Although Bharat Maharaj was awarded the body of an animal, he did not forget what had previously happened due to his purposeful mistake. He was very anxious to get out of his deer body, and this indicates that his affection for devotional service was intensified, so much so that he was quickly to attain perfection in a Brahmana body in the next life. And then Prabhupada goes on to make an interesting point, but it is with this conviction that we declare in our Bhakti-Gata magazine that devotees like Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposely commit some sinful activity are born in the body of dogs, monkeys, and tortoises in that holy land. Thus they take on these lower life forms for a short while, and after they give up those animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Such punishment is only for a short time and is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. So that's kind of the main point there, that it may appear like karma, but engaging in Krishna consciousness, it's some slight punishment given by Krishna to rectify the devotee and to bring him to pure devotional service. So that's kind of like the perspective to see in all these different things, because there'll be different things that come up in life, different problems. It's inevitable. So the thing is that we should kind of hear about those things, discuss those things, so that when it does happen, we're ready. And then when it happens, then it's like, what the heck is going on? So then that way it's prepared. And it can be difficult, in those circumstances and in those situations to think of Krishna and to see Krishna's hand through those difficult times. Because the thing is that if we're, anyways, those difficult times, what is it? There's that famous saying that these, I don't know exactly where it's from, but these are times that try a man's soul or whatever. So these difficult times, it can really show, at least ourselves, where we're situated at in Krishna consciousness. If something like difficult happens, we're staying in the temple and then we come for prasadam and then there's no prasadam. And then we're like, what the heck is this? Nobody's saying me any prasadam. I'm done. I'm done. This is the last straw. I'm done with Krishna consciousness. And then whatever, or we just go across the street and go buy some, I don't know, some vegan burger or something, some veg burger. Like that. So we can see here that it's one's attitude, how one understands. So there has to be that deep connection to Shastra and connection to the spiritual master and hearing that and understanding that. Because we see with Bharat Maharaj, when he became a deer, he remembered what happened. He thought, oh, crap, I gotta fix myself. I gotta, and he went and he stayed close by the ashram of some sages, some munis. And he did I think he did like some deer tapasya or something. He was, something like that, I think it's kind of meant. Not exactly like deer tapasya, but he lived a simple life as a deer. But he didn't think, what the heck is this? Like, Krishna, like I served you, I did all this for you, I worshipped you, I left my family, I gave them up and my kingdom, and then now I'm a deer. What the heck is this? And like anyway, I'm gonna go enjoy as a deer. So he didn't think like that. So he thought, okay, I made some mistake. Anyways, this is Krishna's mercy. And then in his next life, he was like, let me be super careful. So then he pretended to be, dumb. And so his family was annoyed with him. So and then he would do, stupid things. Like he would go take a shower and then he would go past stool. And they're like, what the heck is this? He would do all the stuff opposite. And then I think people or his family, they would like feed him nasty stuff. It's mentioned oil cakes. I don't know what an oil cake is. but doesn't sound very good. And so they would feed him nasty stuff and then kind of like, look at this guy, he's stupid. And then Rahugana found him, and then he was, and he chastised him. And then Bharat Maharaj, Jada Bharat, then revealed his situation, or who he actually was. And then Rahugana realized that. But we don't see in his old teachings like that, where he's lamenting, that he was unjustly punished. So, but we see here, so he had that mentality. And so if we have the proper mentality, whatever we're doing in life, if we have the right perspective, the right attitude, then we can easily traverse the path of pure devotional service. If we don't have the right attitude, we don't have the right path, it'll be difficult. And then it'll be something like going through a labyrinth, and that's given there in whatever, Greek line labyrinth, something crazy, something impossible to get out of. And, left, right, get lost in the material world. The material world is like a labyrinth, but it is much more real in the sense that we don't even know we're lost. We think very much so that, I'm doing my thing, I'm chalking out my path, I'm, going to hit success or whatever. So the material world is a very illusory place. So if we lose sight of the focus of Krishna, then things become very difficult, especially if we're in Krishna consciousness. If we lose the sight of the thread of pure devotional service, then it becomes even more difficult, because then we're in the material world and we know the goal of life, we know the perfection of life, but then we're not aspiring for it. Then what are we aspiring for? It's one thing to be in the material world and just be in complete ignorance. That's unfortunate. But it's another thing to be unfortunate, come into the position of being fortunate, and then leaving that again. That is not good. So we see like that. And then also two other great devotees in the Bhagavatam, Dhruva Maharaj, Bharat Maharaj we spoke of, Parikshit Maharaj being cursed. Dhruva Maharaj, though initially he wasn't aspiring for pure devotional service, he did have some setback, and we could think it was a minor thing. And life is like that sometimes. The problems that we're going through are super big, but the problems someone else is going through, it's just minor, it's not a big deal. Whatever, It's like, this and that happened to you, but it's like, move on. So it's sometimes the situations we're going through, for us, it's for the whole world, but it may not be such a big thing. So that's why it's important also to have perspective of devotees to help us get our priorities in line. Because for Arjuna, for instance, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, but what he was going through was a big problem. But Krishna didn't really think it was that big of a problem. You're lamenting for this and that. Yeah, but, Bhishma, Drona, this and that, but, they should die. And that this is what I want. And Vana Sankara, unwanted progeny. This will happen, this will go on, but that's what I want. So Krishna desire is sometimes like that. We may be wanting something what we are thinking is very good for our Krishna consciousness, or whatever, this will help me so much in Krishna consciousness, but maybe Krishna doesn't want that for us in our Krishna consciousness. Maybe he thinks it's better, it's a little bit difficult for you. And it can be difficult. And then we may think, just like I was hearing recently, we shouldn't talk about difficulties in Krishna consciousness and such, and just focus on the bliss and things like that. But it can be almost, To just focus on the negatives is one extreme. To focus just on the bliss is also one extreme too. Should be balanced. And it's understood that in practicing Krishna consciousness, there will be blissful times and there'll be difficulties. So we should be able to navigate both of them. And we should also understand that if we're having a good time in Krishna consciousness, that should be cemented with following Krishna consciousness seriously. If we're just doing whatever nonsense, and then we think that we're just, and His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Maharaj made that point years ago, and where was that? In, I guess, Jersey. He was just saying that he, after some time of struggling in Krishna consciousness and preaching and different things like that, he went to Vrindavan, and he could really feel Krishna's mercy. And he was saying he realized that was due from so much surrendering in the Sankirtan movement, and not from just, I think he said, just making some joke, not to just like watching TV, eating potato chips or something like that. So Krishna's mercy is there and it comes, but his mercy comes by following the instructions of what he gives in Shastra, following the instructions of sadhus and devotees, and following the instructions of the spiritual master, and applying those instructions seriously in one's life. So to go back to that, with Dhruva Maharaj, so in his situation that happened, he was chastised by his stepmother, Saruchi. And then anyways, we know the story. Suniti told him, go to the woods and, find Narayan. He can help you in your situation. So anyways, the point is that obstacle or that setback, that helped immensely push him into pure Krishna consciousness. So sometimes like that, looking back in life, there's that saying, hindsight is 20/20. So looking back on situations in life or difficulties or struggle, there may be so many struggles or so many obstacles. There's so many different enemies. There's lust, anger, greed, madness. We may make a mistake in a certain circumstance. We may think, well, whatever. And there may be so many things. Well, I'll buy this house, and then whatever. We buy the house, and then a hurricane comes and destroys the house, and then we got insurance, but then the insurance doesn't want to cover it or something, like that, or whatever. And that's usually, or something along those lines when we think, oh, what the heck, I'm out now. Krishna, why could you do that? How could you do this to me? I remember hearing one time, years ago, interesting story. So one devotee was explaining, they had went through some really difficult situation in their life, and I'm not promoting this, they were promoting this, I don't think it's right, but they were saying how they just took their deity of Krishna and sat their deity down and just screamed at their deity about how horrible their life was and why is Krishna doing this to me. And then they felt better after that. After berating Krishna and screaming at him about why is Krishna ruining their life. Angry at Krishna. And that may be there in a neophyte consciousness. Why is Krishna ruining my life? Why, Krishna, are all these material desires in my heart? Why? But we understand that it's not that. You see, the thing is that the prisoner that's in the jail, he's in the jail not because he was just placed. He won the lottery, and then you get the opportunity to go to jail. He did something wrong. So it's our situation in the material world. We did something wrong at some particular point in time. So we suffer in different ways. And so when we come into Krishna consciousness, that suffering is minimized. And so it's to help us propel us forward in Krishna consciousness. But anyways, that particular devotee wasn't preaching that. It was preaching we should be angry at Krishna. And yeah, we can see. You can be angry at Krishna and get liberated like Kamsa was. But our acharyas don't advise us to follow that path, actually. They say that is not actually favorable in the sense that we should cultivate Krishna consciousness favorably. So like that. And also Chitraketu losing his son and things. So looking back, we can see that, and that may be like that in some times in life, and it may take time. But the point is that these reversals and these situations can help propel us further into Krishna consciousness, very much so intensely. And let's see here. And we can see also, even if we go and we speak with devotees personally, even when we may not, we should get inspiration from the Bhagavatam, but we can also get inspiration from devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness seriously by seeing their inspiration, because we see that with their senior devotees, and we can get inspiration from them. They go through things in life, etc., like that. And there's one thing I was thinking of in particular, but I heard this story recently with one devotee, and I'll kind of paraphrase it, but pretty much there was one devotee, and anyways, none of us know the devotee. I forget the devotee's name anyways, but it was some Mataji, and so she was serving at some temple, and she was doing very nice service. She was a pujari in a temple. And so it was like everything was like very good, excellent pujari. Everybody recognized that. But it was understood that she had one problem or one fault, was that she had a tendency to like never let things go in Krishna consciousness. Like if some devotee did something wrong or misbehaved or wronged her or whatever, it was like would not let that go for anything. It was like always like just angry at that particular devotee or things that had happened. And so that was like understood and that was recognized, and people understood that it was like too much and too far. And devotees would try to bring that up to her, and her husband would try to bring that up to her, and she understood it wasn't right, but still she just wasn't able to get over that. And we can see too, there may be problems also we have in Krishna consciousness, that devotees are saying, you got this wrong, the Guru is saying you have this wrong, we know it's wrong, but still we're not able to get over that, or whatever that may be. There may be different things, and from person to person, individual to individual. We all have anarthas, unwanted things in our hearts that may discourage us in Krishna consciousness, and may make things difficult, or may think, when is this ever going to go away? So anyways, that devotee was having that problem and that difficulty, and it was serious. And so I think that was going on for years and years, actually. It wasn't just, sometimes it's like that, have a problem for years and years. So so that devotee was experiencing that, and she had some friend, and so she was relaying that and explaining that, her situation, and they've been in over the years. And so that devotee at one point prayed very much intensely to Krishna that I'm having this problem, please do something, please help me out. This is really difficult. And so Krishna answered her prayers. So Krishna helped her out. So what happened? She went before Krishna and prayed, and then immediately all that stuff went away. Not exactly. What happened was that she wasn't feeling so well, and so she went to the doctors, I think maybe some weeks later or something like that, and found out that she had cancer, and she was going to die. And it was really serious. And I think it went on for some years, like this and that, and I forget some of the major details. But she understood at that particular point that Krishna had answered her prayers and gave her cancer. And then so she had some realization of this anartha that she was holding on into her heart, this unwanted thing, and understanding that it was cancerous also, and then trying to let that up and give that up and go on for some time. And so like that. So Krishna helped her in that way. And so I think it went away for a little bit, but then it came back. But anyways, so she was struggling and such, and she was, leaving her body, and, she didn't want anybody to come, this and that. She felt bad and things, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of stuff. And so eventually, all the devotees from the community, they heard that she was passing away because she wasn't coming and things like that. And so they all went and did kirtan for her and and was chanting. And she was very happy and such. And so she ended up passing away. And so she wrote a letter to another devotee. And so in that letter, she explained that, I got this cancer, this and that. And what was that? On Nishinga Chaturdasi, she felt that all of these things she'd been holding on to for so many years finally went away by the mercy of Nishingadev. I think she had some dream or something like that. I forget exactly. But on that day, she mentioned that all those different things finally left her. And she finally got over of all these grudges and all these things she'd been holding on to, and she's finally felt purified. She was finally free of that. And so she wrote that letter to her friend, and then her friend got that, I think, years and years later, actually, much well after she passed away, like that. So that situation happened. And so it's just to show, and that's just, a regular devotee, we say, every devotee is extraordinary, but not someone that's, maybe, running around preaching, doing this and that, someone just doing some simple service. But we see that Krishna gave his mercy, and so that mercy was difficult, for sure. I mean, ultimately, she got cancer, but that difficulty helped purify her of the different things she was struggling with in her life, and help her get over that. So Krishna helps his devotees, and Krishna helps his devotees how he sees fit, which may not be how we see fit. But if we have the proper attitude and we're cultivating that mentality, then we think and we see that, let me be helped how Krishna wants me to be helped, and maybe what I want isn't the best thing, however difficult, our situation or our things may be. But the main thing is that we should always be cultivating that attitude of pure devotional service. And Prabhupada makes that point. And it's an intrinsic point in Krishna consciousness that shouldn't be overlooked, however many years, or however many time, or whatever it is, or whatever our situation may be, because it's the solid reference point by which we come back to this anyabhilasita sunyam, of doing everything for Krishna's favor, pleasure, favorably, without this jnana karma and all these different things. So we're taught to cultivate pure devotional service in that mood, in that manner. And so we should do that, and we should try for that. And if we do that, we'll have faith, and then we'll see Krishna's hands in things. Just like she was able to see when she got the cancer, that this is Krishna's mercy. She didn't think, why is this happening to me? And it can be difficult. It can be a tough pill to swallow. But to become a pure devotee is a tough pill to swallow. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing to be in the material world. But if that's what we actually want, and that's what we actually desire, and Krishna will help, and his devotees will help, the Guru will help, everybody, all help is there. Full-blown, no problem. But generally the problem is from us. So kind of sum up there, but just to come back to the point, I kind of took the question in a different direction, mainly. Why do living entities suffer if the Supersoul is with them? But there's different ways of looking at that in Shastra. And anyways, so if there's any questions or comments about anything, we can go there. So. Anything? Okay, wait for it to turn down. Okay.
Well, according to the Christians, God created heaven, but then when Jesus comes or whatever, when the judgment happens or whatever, after that, God's going to create a new earth.
Oh, okay.
Without any of the problems that exist right now.
Yeah.
That's only for the followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
And something like this is some. And this point you were making about this Mataji, this is a really nice story. And I was, I'm just reflecting about how it could, how heavy of a situation it could be, and then how sometimes, we need that kind of like a heavy, thing to kind of jolt us into having the proper attitude or something. I just wanted to thank you for that story. It was quite profound.
Yeah, it was Krishna mercy somehow or other. I've stumbled upon that, but it's there. Like you're saying, you need that jolt, that push sometimes, and then you kind of like wake up, and it's like, okay, all right, Krishna, all right, I'm done. You win. Let's do your program. Whatever you want, and then like that. So, anything else? Jidagirish, Prabhu.
I remember reading in Srila Prabhupada's purport in the pastime of Bharat Maharaj, how, Bharat Maharaj, he was a pure devotee from the jump, but then he he enacted the pastime of getting attached to the deer to what was it, prolong his stay in the material world to like increase his taste for going back to Godhead. Something like this. Does anybody remember?
I mean, I've heard different things. Generally what I've heard is that he was at the stage above almost to pure devotion. But then also they make the point, like the Acharyas give different light on the whole deer thing, that was like arranged by Krishna. And Vishwanath Thakur makes a point. I'd have to look it up exactly, but he makes the point that was kind of there, that happened. What does he say exactly? That Krishna like arranged that. I mean, kind of like the same thing Prabhupada said, to increase like his desire, or something along those lines. But different Acharyas kind of give like different like visions of like, or angles of that pastime. So, I don't know if any of you have any comments on that, but yeah, my understanding was when he was on the Bhav platform, but right. Anything else? Mataji's? Okay. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki.